Hey guys, Derek here, Civil War Explained. I'm standing here, as you can see, on Rude's Hill in New Market, Virginia. Here, basically right in the middle of the Shenandoah Valley. And I have a special guest here that's going to tell you more about where we're at.
Hey everybody, I'm Aaron with Aaron Civil War Travels, a resident of New Market and also a Civil War buff like my friend Derek here. We're standing on Rude's Hill, which is one of the most occupied places in the Shenandoah Valley. You have engagements in 1862, 1863, and 1864. In 1865, there's going to be a general hospital up here. Why? Because this place is super defensible for both armies. It overlooks a plain called Means Bottom that goes toward Mount Jackson. We have the river back here behind me and the mountain behind the camera. Those are your anchors. And so Stonewall Jackson will bring his army up here and they will hold Rude's Hill. In 1862, he'll camp here before retreating onto Conrad's store. 1863, you'll have Confederate cavalry here and Union cavalry engaging in November of 1863, November 15th to be exact. Colonel William Boyd will attack Major Robert White's cavalry. Then in 1864, the end of the Battle of New Market will be here. On the other side, down at the bottom of the hill, DuPont's artillery will hold back the Confederates long enough for Franz Sigel's army to make it across the bridge into Mount Jackson. After that, in 1864, Alfred Torbert will be coming through here. That is the chief of cavalry for Philip Sheridan. They'll be coming through here. And there will be an action again in November, but this time 1864. So very occupied hill, super ton of history here for the American Civil War.
All right, guys, so we're still on Rude's Hill. We're kind of at the bottom of Rude's Hill now. And a couple things went on here. So after, as you can see from the sign here, there was some stuff after Appomattox and some more actual war action that happened during the time. So if you want to let us know what was going on there.
Yeah, so we'll start with the Battle of New Market, 1864, May 15th. It'll be here that Henry DuPont's artillery will be placed. They'll come up to cover the retreat of Franz Sigel's army as they're moving back toward Mount Jackson. And he's going to do something they're taught in West Point. He's going to do a leapfrog maneuver. However, that maneuver is not done very often. This is one of the only times I have found that it's done. So basically he has one gun shoot, and he takes it back with another gun in front. It's just like playing leapfrog. And he does that to hold back the Confederate forces who are pursuing Sigel's retreating men. And because of that, he will really save that portion of Sigel's army. They'll be able to get across the bridge into Mount Jackson and burn it. Now, 1865, May 22nd, the post-Appomattox tragedy. This has to do with some members of Company D, 7th Virginia Cavalry, after Lee's surrender. They're on their way home. They will actually steal a couple horses from the 192nd Ohio, who happens to be camped here at Rude's Hill. The next day, the horses are returned, and the men are assured that they will not be prosecuted. There's been so much bloodshed. Let's just let bygones be bygones. However, that particular commander will leave. And the next day, Lieutenant Colonel Cyrus Hussey will be in temporary command. He will order the arrest of those men. They are going to arrest two men over in Page County, and that is Captain George Summers and Sergeant Isaac Newton Koontz. What ends up happening is those men are brought here to camp. They are tried and executed right here on June 22nd of 1865. Based on stealing those horses. They're killed as horse thieves.
Okay, guys, so now we're here at the 54th Pennsylvania Monument here on the New Market battlefield. Just behind us here is what's called the Bloody Cedars. And Aaron is going to give you some more information about what went on here.
So, again, the 54th Pennsylvania is right here. They, on their left flank, will be Union cavalry. That cavalry has been given the task to charge up the Valley Pike into the face of Confederate artillery, which is actually going to decimate them and pretty much kick them out of the battle. At that point, the 54th will still be here. As they come up on this ridge, they're going to see Confederates just out in front of them in the wood line and in this little swell. They are going to suffer 30% casualties. And it's going to be one of the worst casualty rates here at Newmarket, other than Woodson's Missourians over by the Field of Lost Shoes. But these guys hold as long as they can. They have nobody on their left, and on their right, the units are starting to fall back. That's why this gets the name the Bloody Cedars, because of the gallantry of the 54th Pennsylvania right here, and a lot of bloodshed that happens here in those cedars with these guys. Really intense fighting on this part of the battlefield, an often overlooked part of the Newmarket battlefield.
I'm just thinking too, like, imagine being, at this point, these guys are probably no more than 500 at the very most left in that regiment, probably less.
Yeah,
and you're basically by yourself.
Yeah, because they're, 566 soldiers. They've got 32 killed and 100 wounded.
So they're under 500.
And they don't start the battle either. They get here during the battle, so it's crazy.
All right, guys, so I'm here at the Rice House, still in Newmarket, still with Aaron from Aaron's Civil War Travels, and he is going to give you some more information on what went on here at the Rice House.
So the Rice House, which is behind me, the porch there, I'll start out with that. That is not the original porch. You can see the outline of the original porch there. That is a post-Civil War porch. Obviously, the house has had some modern things done to it since the American Civil War, but the core of the house is still its original house. The Rice, this was part of a farm actually. The Rice Farm was a large slaveholding farm, and there's even still one of the slave quarters here on the property. But in 1864, during the battle in Newmarket, the Rice family is here. And during the battle, Von Kleiser's New York, 30th New York battery will be here in the yard right behind the camera. Now, during this battle, a shell will be fired from the Confederates. It'll actually go into the side of the house, the south side of the house, go through the wall and land into the parlor. It will not explode. Now later, the family will take that shell back out and mortar it into the hole that it went through, kind of commemorating what happened on that day on May 15th, 1864.
Can you imagine being in that parlor and that thing just, and it's spent like,
it's just there, yeah.
I know you're sitting there thinking, I'm gone. It's gonna blow up.
You have to, yeah. And then, on top of it, you have Von Kleiser's battery out here. So it's not like that's the only thing. The Confederate soldiers are going to come pouring through here. Von Kleiser's battery will be set up here in the yard and across the Valley Pike on up to the next little ridge here. He will have one gun actually disabled in the Valley Pike, and as he's trying to retreat and take it away, the wheel's going to break and it gets stuck. The axle actually gets stuck out here in the Valley Pike, and he has to leave the gun. The Confederates will eventually capture that gun before Von Kleiser moves on back toward his next position. But there's even more. In 1862, Thomas J. Stonewall Jackson will camp here. Now, he doesn't camp in the house. He camps here in the yard. It's a bit of a hill here. And he has been offered to stay in the house, been offered to stay in the Strayer House, which today is the Shenandoah Valley Battlefield Foundation headquarters. He's been offered to stay there. Doesn't want to do that. His staff wants to, but he doesn't. He's going to stay here in a tent. Torrential rain comes in, seems to be a Newmarket theme. Comes in, wipes Jackson's tent out, including Jackson, all the way down to the fence line that's behind the camera here. And that fence is original. It's been, cemented in, but those are the original stones. But he's washed down into that fence, wet, just absolutely distraught. And of course, he will then tell his staff who are laughing, perhaps they should go and accept the invitation to stay at the Strayer House. And it's possible that while there, all his clothes are wet, he had a long winter coat on. Of course, this was summertime. That he gives an interview just in that winter coat. Not sure what else would have been under it if everything's wet. So that's a little food for thought there. But also in 1864 at the Battle of Newmarket, Franz Sigel will arrive at this location about noon, and he will make his headquarters here briefly. It'll also be the headquarters of Nathaniel Banks at one point, and some other Union and Confederate generals. Breckinridge will be here as well.
So right now we are standing on the river road, the Newmarket battlefield. Behind us here is a witness tree to the battle. And we're going to take a little bit of a walk, and Aaron's going to explain here what went on.
So we'll start out here on the river road. On May 14th, there will be Union soldiers in this roadway, and they'll be laying in the road at night. There's going to be heavy skirmishing. Sometimes men are going to come up within 60 yards of each other, and it's raining, it's nasty, as it'll be the next day at the battle on May 15th. But these men have to stay here on this roadway right here, right where we're standing. And they can't have fires. It's rainy and nasty, so they're cold. Even though it's May, it's early May. Still here in Virginia, it gets a little cold early May. So they are literally laying in this road. Now, the river road would continue across present-day Interstate 81, all the way up to the museum on the hill there, and all the way down to the river, hence why it's called the River Road. But if we walk out this way, we'll actually be coming up to the Reformation Church. Now, during the battle, Snow's artillery, Union artillery, will be posted in the cemetery that'll be off to our left over here. And they will be firing shots back and forth with the Confederates during the battle before this area is overrun by the Confederate soldiers as they push the Union Army back toward Bushong's Hill. Also here in the cemetery is a small monument to the Virginia Military Institute, the cadets, who are heavily involved in this battle, as they will make a charge across what is now known the Field of Lost Shoes. But as you walk out this road, it's now called Breckinridge Lane. The reason it's called that is on the other side of the Reformation Church that we're walking toward. And what a beautiful shot of the gap, too. As we're walking toward it, there is a post there. It's called the Shell-Struck Post. And that post would have been there during the American Civil War. Now, it is today a replica. It's got a replica shell in it. But the story is that John Breckinridge and some of his staff were out here on the Valley Pike, kind of pinpointing where they were going to put things. A shell, a Union artillery shell, will come through and hit the post. But, much like at the Rice House, it doesn't explode. It actually just explodes the post. And so those guys will get a lot of splinters thrown all over them. But what a difference that shell could have made to the Battle of Newmarket if it had exploded right there amongst Breckinridge and his staff. At that point, it would be complete chaos for the Confederacy. After coming off the river road, we're still technically on it, but we're here where Breckinridge really starts doing something very innovative. He's been moving his artillery, using it almost like a mobile force as he's pushing the Union Army back. And this is going to be one of the spots where he's going to bring his guns up. And these guns in particular that are going to be on this, you can see one here in the camera, they are going to be firing on von Kleiser's battery, which is over at the Rice House, before moving on up to another place called Battery Heights, up behind the Budget Inn. And from there, it'll be more of a massed artillery display there. But very interesting that Breckinridge is going to use basically his right flank. He's going to use the artillery to hold his right flank. And it really starts here once they come into Newmarket, that this is one of those spots. Of course, again, the shell-struck post right over there. He would have been right there in the middle of the Valley Pike when that post was hit by artillery. And really could have changed the battle. But he's at that time, he is also making his dispositions for his artillery and what he wants to do, and it works out very well for him.
All right, guys, so still here in New Market, Virginia, my buddy Aaron here. And I bet you didn't know that there were some cows that fought here too. Want to tell us more about that?
I can, yeah. So where we're standing, this is actually behind the Crim House. We're actually behind a mobile station as well, gas station. But the Crim House sits up here kind of in those trees. That was the home of Mother Crim, Eliza Crim. And she's called Mother Crim because she took care of the wounded and dying VMI cadets and several other soldiers, but specifically the cadets in the house up here. And that house is preserved, owned by the Shenandoah Valley Battlefields Foundation, as is this property behind me. But the significance here is during a cannonade here at the Battle of New Market, you have some West Virginia troops out here, and they're waiting for these Confederates to finally come off of Shirley's Hill to come in at them. The cannons are firing shots from St. Matthew Cemetery and here and Shirley's Hill. And while these West Virginians are waiting, suddenly about 8 dairy cows are going to come charging through their line. I call it the charge of the Confederate cows. They come charging through their line and they're chased by a big black Newfoundland dog. So imagine you're sitting here, you're waiting for the enemy to attack, and instead you've got about a 1,500-pound animal, not one, but 8 of them come barreling through your lines. I can't imagine. It's one of those little quirks in the Civil War that that happens. I can't imagine what those guys were thinking at that time. But yeah, that happens right here, right behind the gas station, behind the Crim House, right here in New Market.
Now I can tell you what they were thinking. They were thinking West Virginia is the best Virginia.
That might be what they were thinking. Beef is what's for dinner.
That's right. All right, guys. Now we're over here at the Bushong Farmhouse. Here in New Market still, and Aaron is going to tell you a little bit about this window right here.
Yeah, so again, the Bushong House, this is the Bushong Farm preserved by George Collins and then donated to the Virginia Military Institute, because this is the site where the VMI cadets, when they are put into the battle, will actually go around this house and up into the orchard before they make their gallant charge across the field of lost shoes. But during the battle, the Bushongs are here. And that little window down there is the basement window. And the basement's about this tall. So even I could hit my head. I'm not a very tall guy. But if you're over 5 foot, you're probably going to hit your head in there. They are in there during the battle, and they watch as the men run past the window. They'll see men fall. After the battle, this becomes a hospital. There will be men laying out here on the porch, and they will be doing surgeries out here. Most of the buildings in New Market become hospitals after the battle. And there's a lot of other buildings here on the property that are preserved. And they've actually recently, just a few years ago, and one of the little buildings here, it's an 1800s house. I can't remember if it's 1818, I believe. That house, there was battle damage found from the Battle of New Market, a Union artillery shell, and it's now marked with a little red spot on the side of that building. So lots of cool stuff happening here, but inside the house would have been chaos after the battle.
All right, guys, so now behind us here is the Field of Lost Shoes, where the famous charge of the VMI cadets happened. And Aaron is going to give you way more information about that than I can.
So yeah, Field of Lost Shoes. Why is it called the Field of Lost Shoes? Very simply, it is a very muddy, rainy, nasty day. And this field, even today, will get muddy and nasty. And if you've lived in Virginia or been in Virginia after a major rainstorm, you will notice that the mud does try to still suck the shoes off your feet. Luckily, we have shoes that tie and are a little bit tighter. In Civil War times, those brogans, it kind of almost felt like a one-size-fits-all type thing. Some of them were probably loose, some of them not as tight as they should be, and there's no tread. But what happens is there's a hole that gets created in the Confederate line, and that hole has to be plugged. The only reserves that General John Breckinridge has is the VMI cadets. About 256 boys from the Virginia Military Institute. Some as old as 25, the youngest being, I believe, 15. And what will happen is they will deploy, they'll go around the Bushong house, they'll come into the orchard over here, and then they will deploy against this fence line here. And it's not just going to be them. You're going to have the 51st Virginia up on their left flank. It'd be to my right. And you'll have more Confederates off to the right. You also have Woodson's Missourians who are now part of the 62nd Virginia. They'll be right here, about 70 men, suffering heavy casualties, 35 wounded, and I believe 7 killed. But out here facing the VMI cadets will be von Kleiser's battery. We talked about him down at the Rice House. Von Kleiser has now moved what's left of his guns here to this part of the field. Up on the hill will be more Union artillery. That is Snow and Carlin's guns that are up there. Lots of massed Union artillery. And there have been attacks and counterattacks across these fields. At this point, Franz Sigel is back here and everything sort of happens at once. The cadets and the 51st Virginia and these other Confederates along this line are going to make the decision to charge. At that exact same time, unbeknownst to them, the artillery is beginning to start to move away. They're running out of ammunition. They need to be replenished. They're starting to try to limber up the guns. And Sigel, at that time as well, is riding up and down the line on Bushong's Hill, shouting his orders in German. So it's pure chaos. Again, rainy, nasty, foggy. You got that smoke hanging. So when the cadets and these other Confederates charge across this field, they don't know that that Union artillery is planning to leave. They are running into the face of death. As they get across there, they will capture one gun of von Kleiser's, them being the VMI cadets. They'll capture one of von Kleiser's guns, thus breaking the Union line. It'll fall on both sides. The 54th Pennsylvania over near the Bloody Cedars will have to retreat. Von Kleiser will have to retreat. The 34th Massachusetts, probably the best Union unit on the field, will have to retreat. They will make some little stands, little pockets of them up along this hill to try to stall this Confederate charge. But the cadets gallantly will make it across this field, and they will even have a little bit of hand-to-hand combat with the 34th Massachusetts. Again, that's probably the best unit out here for the Union Army. But they will take a gun, and that happens right here. And right down, I don't know if you can actually see it on the video, there's a little white post out there, and at that spot is where 15-year-old Samuel Adams, not the beer guy, but Sam Adams, will have his shoe sucked off his foot, and he talks about it. He says that he had a hard time getting it out. So in the middle of this chaotic battle, this charge, this young man's shoe comes off, and he is not letting that shoe stay in the mud. He is getting it out while all this chaos is happening around him. But that happens right here. And this field, again, it still gets muddy today. Here in Newmarket during the anniversary of the battle, it's either extremely hot or it's pouring rain or it's both in the same day.
And just want to add something to that. For people who may not have experienced what you're talking about with the mud, I know it's just like that for me in West Virginia, but a lot of people will have heard of the Mud March.
Yes.
After Fredericksburg. Same type thing. I mean, we're not in the exact same area, but Fredericksburg, as the crow flies, is what, probably 80, 90 miles southeast?
80, yeah.
So same ground, same general type of soil, that type of stuff. So if you're familiar with the Mud March, kind of would have been the exact same thing out here.
Yeah, very much so.